Hello there, good people. Welcome to It's a Shaw Thing. I'm your host, Rob Shaw, here to talk a little fantasy football. It's Tuesday, so time to get you caught up with the news and notes. We do have some injuries and even a big player release to discuss. We start off with an injury. Out for the season is Chris Henry, wide receiver of the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, this is a guy that we expected big things from this season, and if anything, he's been a pretty big disappointment so far. You look at his numbers on the year, only 12 receptions for 236 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he only gets 20 yards per reception, but the fact they just didn't get the ball enough is why he was disappointing this year. As far as someone who should fill in for him while he's out, expect Laveranues Coles to start getting the ball a lot more. In fact, he did a lot this past weekend against the Baltimore Ravens. 6 receptions for 72 yards. He's had 3 touchdowns so far this season. Former Jet Laveranues Coles is the guy to keep an eye on in fantasy leagues. Next up, we move on to the Oakland Raiders, and Darren McFadden is ready to return. In fact, he made his return in practice on Monday. This is big news after missing a couple of weeks because of a knee injury. It's not as if anyone really took his spot. Justin Fargas does lead the team with over 220 rushing yards on the season, but the future is clearly all about Darren McFadden, so expect him to get the bulk of the carries instead of Michael Bush and Justin Fargas. Next up, we move to Washington. Also in the backfield, Clinton Portis likely to be out this weekend. Currently, he's listed as doubtful. The Redskins star hurt his head in a concussion in a violent hit this past weekend. Liddell Betts, that's the guy that you need to know. He ended up coming in for 15 carries, 70 yards, and a touchdown. Expect nice performance from him this weekend against the Denver Broncos. And finally, we finish up with the Kansas City Chiefs, who happen to be playing against the aforementioned Oakland Raiders. And the guy to know is now Jamaal Charles. He didn't have the best of weekends against the Jacksonville Jaguars, totaling 55 yards of offense. But the good news is he'll get plenty more opportunities now that the Chiefs have released Larry Johnson. Where Johnson's going to end up, wherever it is, don't worry about it. It's probably going to be in a reserve role, so don't get too excited as far as his fantasy value. Instead, again, the name to know is Jamaal Charles, but be careful. He might end up splitting carries with Colby Smith. Well, my friends, that's all for now. Tomorrow I'll be right back here at opensports.com.